Okay, confession time. This is like the 7th video I've started. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this, but today I just cannot get through this. I did a 20-minute video and every other word was and I was not going to spend 5 hours editing it, so I am trying again. So let's see how this goes. Today's topic is terms and conditions. I couldn't even get that out in the other 7 videos, so I'm off to a better start. Hi, my name's Stacy and I'm owner of Montana Used Bricks, and I'm doing this channel so that I can help newcomers to Bricklink kind of get past some of the hurdles and issues that I had when I started out. I feel that terms and conditions are probably one of the most important parts of your store because it lets the buyer know right away what they can expect from you and what you expect from them. Your terms and conditions are unique to you, and each store is different, as I've said before. You can have like one sentence for your terms and conditions, or you can be like me and have a half a page. The reason I have such long-term in conditions is because every time an issue has come up, I have updated my terms and conditions. So it's changed a lot over the last 5 years. So the very first thing you will see on my terms and conditions is that I have a minimum buy, and I kind of had to raise that. No, I didn't kind of. I really did raise that in the last year or so. As my business began to grow, I needed that minimum buy to kind of help offset some of the costs, like the cost for materials, shipping materials, and just running the business. Since I've started this, I've kept a pretty elaborate spreadsheet on all my costs, and I realized that on small orders, I was not making any money. So I was actually losing money by the time I paid for shipping materials and put money aside for taxes and all the other things you need to run your business. I was coming up short. I was in the red. So I decided a couple of years ago to put a minimum buy of 50 cents. But in the last year or so, I've noticed that a lot of small orders are coming in, and that is causing me to lose money. So just recently, I have raised that to $1.75. I have a minimum buy. I don't have any fees. This is something you're going to have to decide for yourself. I'm not a fan of extra fees for shipping and handling or padding your shipping charges. That's just not something I do. But each store is unique and everybody has their reasons for doing that. I'm also not a fan of the big minimum buy, like, you know, $8, $10, $12, $20, especially if you don't have a lot of parts. If you don't have bulk parts, it can be very irritating to be in a store that has a minimum fee of $8 and I only need $5 worth of parts. And unless that store has the one part that I need and I can't get it anywhere else, then I will buy enough parts to get me up to that minimum buy. But what happens is that extra $3 worth of parts ends up going back into my inventory because I don't need them. But each store is different, and I do understand why stores have a high minimum buy, because a lot of times they are trying to limit how many people are actually buying from their store, because maybe they have a very busy day job or they have a busy family. They want to keep the store open, they want to make a little bit of money, but they don't want to be bogged down with the little orders. And I totally get that. As somebody who does a lot of small orders, I understand the reason that they have the higher minimum buy. But just make sure you have enough parts and lots and variety that it makes it worthwhile for people to pay that much for the parts. The next thing on my terms and conditions is I kind of talk about the condition, because I do sell used parts, so I want to mention to them that these, remind them again, even though it's in my title of my store name, Montana Used Parts, I remind them again these are used parts, so they're not going to be perfect. I try not to sell anything that I wouldn't want to get when I buy used parts. So I've gotten very particular over the years. When I first started, I almost cringed to think the type of parts that I sent out to people, and if you're one of those people, I'm really sorry. But I've gotten a lot better over the years about sending better quality parts, and a lot of stuff ends up in my junk box. And I also let people know if they want pristine parts to please go buy from a new store. Do not buy from my store expecting every piece to look brand new, because it won't. The next thing in my terms and conditions, I talk about missing parts. My inventory is not perfect by any means. I have tried doing audits. We try to keep up when we're doing orders to kind of see what's left to make sure that we have the right amount in there. But it's never right. No matter how much I do, I don't know what happens. I don't know if the parts are moving on their own or if the little minifigures are moving around at night and moving them. I don't know. But it's not perfect, as much as I would love it to be. So whenever there's an issue with an order and I'm missing a part or I don't have the right color or the right amount, I immediately make sure that I message them and let them know that they're not going to be getting that part. And I'll do a whole nother video on that. When I did my 20-minute video earlier, I think that's where I derailed as I started talking about how I fixed that. Let me just talk about my terms and conditions, what it says. If there is a part missing, I will let them know, and they will have a choice of either getting a PayPal refund or they can get store credit. And usually what I will do is, if it's under 50 cents, I will offer them a PayPal refund, or I will double that and say you can get that in store credit. So if the part was worth 11 cents, I would say, okay, I can refund the 11 cents via PayPal, or I can offer you 22 cents in store credit. And I have to say that it's probably 50-50 on whether or not that they choose a refund or a store credit. I've also had people that have said, oh man, it's just a couple of cents, don't worry about it. Things like this happen. Whenever somebody does that, I immediately turn around and send them a 10% off coupon. That way they're still getting something even though I screwed up their order. The other part of my terms and conditions, I talk about wanting to add more parts to the order. I prefer they didn't do this. I really encourage people to hold off checking out until they make sure they have all their parts. If they do a manual invoice, it's really not a big deal. They can go back in the store and it'll come up as a batch on that original order. The issue now is with instant checkout. They're done. The order is complete as far as I'm concerned. And so to come back and say, oh, wait, I forgot these 3 parts. Can I just, have you stick them in the envelope and I will send you some money via PayPal? I don't like doing that. It just feels wrong to me. For one, when they're doing that, Bricklink isn't getting their money, which I'm sure that's totally against Bricklink's terms and conditions. Also now with the sales tax, they're not paying sales tax on that. So I'm really starting to get away from doing that. I kind of did it before, but now with how much PayPal fees are and with the Bricklink's terms and conditions and everything else, I'm really starting to get away from that. I haven't figured out a polite way to tell these people no and stick with it, but that's something to consider when people want to be adding parts. I basically say no, once it's packed, you're done, there can't be any parts added to it. If they insist on adding parts to their order, I will tell them that they need to create a new order, do it as a manual invoice, and then I will invoice them for those parts along with any additional shipping charges there may be for those additional parts. I'm also a little hesitant to do that because a lot of times what they need is only like 5-10 cents or maybe just a 20-cent or 40-cent part, and that will be eaten up by Bricklink fees. So I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to tell people, no, you need to put in a full order of $1.75 if you really want that part. Or if you're willing, I will put a fee to get you up to that $1.75. Luckily, I haven't had to do that too many times, but it's kind of a pet peeve with me with buyers that, once you have everything done, that they're like, oh yeah, I forgot, just throw those in there. It's like, it's not that easy anymore, not with instant checkout. The next thing on my terms and conditions is cancellations, and these do happen. Sometimes it's because I don't have the part that they need or I can't find the part that they need. Other times something comes up and they just need to cancel. Some stores are very strict about if you ordered from me, you're following through with that order. I would love to be that way, but I understand that things come up and you kind of change your mind about stuff, or maybe you found a better deal at another store. It's like, that really hurts, but go ahead. I will cancel an order. If it's a manual invoice, it's just flat. We're done, it's canceled, you can move on with your life. If it's an instant checkout order, I do refund the money minus 5% because I don't get refunded by PayPal anymore. And all of that is in my terms and conditions. There is one more part that you may want to consider putting in your terms and conditions, and this is the environment that the parts are coming from. If you are a smoker, that's totally up to you. That's your personal choice. But when it comes to selling on Bricklink, you want to be sure that you are telling that in your terms and conditions. The one thing I have seen quite a bit when I go and look at people's feedback, if there's neutral or negative feedback, a lot of it will be because of the smell of the parts. Some of it you don't have any control over. Maybe you got the parts musty, which I totally understand because as a used Bricklink seller, I have opened boxes that I've bought to put into inventory, and it's like, okay, that's going outside for a couple of days just to air out. So I understand that, but you need to put that kind of stuff in your terms and conditions to let people know that that's a possibility. One last thing you might want to add in your terms and conditions is whether or not you have any pets. If you have any animals that might be coming into the area where you work on your Lego business. I have 2 cats. They don't come out to our shop very often, but they do come to visit occasionally. Also, just because we do have 2 cats, a lot of times the cat fur will stick to my clothes, and as I'm doing orders, I notice that there's cat hairs. I try not to put those in the orders, but they could end up there. So I let people know that yes, we do have 2 cats. They do come to visit us in the shop every now and then, so be prepared for that. There are some buyers who are very allergic to cats and dogs, so it's just something to let them know. Just say, hey, the parts are coming from a pet-friendly home. That just lets people know that there's a possibility. Okay, so that's my video on terms and conditions for your Bricklink store. Like I said, each store is different. These are just some ideas to get you thinking about what you might want to add in your terms and conditions, or you just might want to have a one-line thing that says, I don't have any terms and conditions. That's totally up to you. Just something to think about. I would be curious if there's any sellers out there that happen to be watching this video. If I missed anything, or if there's something that I do that you think is a little weird, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. So that's it for this video. If you found it informative or you enjoyed it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.